I didn't piece it together when I first noticed it. There was a tree in our front yard. It wasn't there before. Why? Why? Why am I playing the organ? I'm just talking. This isn't a song. What am I doing? Okay, I'll start over. I didn't piece it together when I first noticed it, but there was a tree in our front yard that wasn't there before. Everyone tells me I'm wrong. They all swore it was always there, but I know it wasn't because I work for the Ontario Tree Department. Damn it, I have strong opinions about trees. And this tree is a Japanese cherry tree. They're beautiful trees, but it always bothers me that they don't create fruit. What is the good of a cherry tree that doesn't produce cherries? Now, this is a controversial opinion in the Ontario Tree Department. And anyway, I'm not going to get passionate. I'm not going to get into this right now, okay? Another time. What is the good? What is the good in planting trees that don't produce fruit? Why? Like a pine tree that you can't touch, that you touch it and it hurts you. You'd rather plant that than a cherry tree. It drives me crazy. I remember this tree. A Japanese cherry tree right in my front yard. And I wouldn't ignore that. That it's proof. This is a passion. I wouldn't ignore it. It's not logic-based proof, but it's using pattern recognition because I know my pattern of behavior. Now, this is the problem, okay? There are logic-based people, and then there are pattern recognition-based. And, some people are both, but a lot of people are one or the other. Okay, and I know my pattern of behavior, and this is kind of flawless. It's a type of logic, but it's not logic somehow because logic-based people can't understand that this is flawless. I know the thoughts I would have. My wife and kids, my sister-in-law especially, didn't understand my explanation. Of course, she doesn't understand. My sister-in-law, Patty. We don't see eye to eye. She's not a Gulliver. She got really mad at me over this. She said I was trying to gaslight everyone, and all I do is gaslight people about stupid things. It's in my family, she says, trying to divide her sister's heart between tribes. She's always so tribal with everything. She makes little tribes, and you have to get into her circle. If you're not in her circle, you're not in her tribe. Stupid things. Like what stupid things? What are you talking about, I say. So she says, really loudly, performing like she's always performing. So she takes over the whole room, too. Stupid things like how people's eyes are starting on fire. You said people's eyes were starting on fire. I didn't say that. When did I say people's eyes are starting on fire? Sometimes you don't have to say things. You will be sneaky not to say it. In fact, you won't say it, but you say it. Which means I never said it. But you imagined I said it, I said. But it didn't matter what I said in defense. She got the whole room against me with her performance, and we were supposed to settle it with a staring contest. A staring contest, I said? This is silly. Are we now children? Everyone comforted my sister-in-law like as if what I said was a secret insult lobbed at her, but all I said was, are we now, like, a staring? Like, isn't it? It's something that little kids do. Like, adults don't do staring contests. This is silly, are we now children? How was that such a mortal insult? But she seemed to be crying, and everybody was looking at me like as if I was a monster. But I just said what anybody would say, wouldn't they? And she was making everybody think that I'm the guy that shoots down her ideas, and not only shoots them down, says it in some kind of abusive way that I don't even understand. It felt like I had no choice. And so I just submitted to the game. But it made no sense. Men, it's scientifically proven, need to blink less than women. I'm just going to win. What's the point? So I tried to point this out, but that to them was proof that I had some sort of superiority complex and had to be taught a lesson. By the time we were sitting at the table ready for the standoff, they called all the cousins and aunts and uncles. Everyone was there, and they started cheering for my sister-in-law, Patty. My wife whistled everyone to attention. Everyone felt that I was out of control and needed a reality check. The duel only lasted 48 seconds until she burst out crying. "My eyes are on fire! My eyes are on fire!" They dipped her head in cold water, but the smoke was still rising out of the steam. And mist that was just filled the air as soon as they put her in the water. She was totally blind for a whole week. Now she can see. But daytime looks like night to her. Everything is dark during daytime. But at nighttime, it now looks like daytime. She can cut raw carrots with a butcher's knife in the pitch darkness. But in the daytime, it's really difficult for her because she has to carry this huge halogen flashlight. Everywhere she goes, she carries this thing. Far away, it looks like a star has fallen down from the sky and is now gliding along our sidewalks. I try never to be around her during the daytime to protect my retinas. All this because she wouldn't believe the Japanese cherry tree wasn't there before. I didn't back down. I wasn't going to back down. Then one morning, we had another Japanese cherry tree. And I said, once again, I know this tree was never there before because it would be impossible for me not to have noticed. The tree was never there before. I surely would have said and remembered saying, "That's the oddest thing I've ever seen. A Japanese cherry tree planted right in the middle of the pavement on our driveway." But nobody agreed with me and said the tree was always there. It was just logical, they said, otherwise the roots wouldn't be so strongly buried in the ground. We could all see the roots on the bottom reaching out and how it grew through the pavement, a process that plainly takes years to accomplish. My argument wasn't logical, they said. It was just based on thoughts that I didn't have. I was remembering thoughts that I didn't have. I felt like ripping the hair out of my own head in frustration. It made no sense to have a tree in the middle of our driveway. We had to park on the street now. We would remember parking our cars on the streets. We wouldn't have even bought this house if it didn't have a functional driveway. My sister-in-law said again, "Your arguments are just thoughts we never had. That's not proof of anything. Your argument isn't logical," she said. I was ready to flip out when my wife said, "Nucky, I can't believe you can't stop talking about yourself when everyone else is shaken up about little Robert." Little Robert? He's not little. And isn't it Roberta now? My wife said, "Do we have to get into that? Is this the time for that?" What? I never had a problem. I said, "I don't care." Remember me saying that? I don't care. My sister-in-law said, "I thought you only remembered things you didn't say." Get that damn flashlight out of my eyes, I said. Listen, you two, this isn't the time for your little spats, my wife said, surely thinking she was a paragon of fairness in saying this. But let me tell every listener here, you don't want to marry your wife's sister. You never would marry your wife's sister if she was the last woman on earth. God would have to chase me down and force me to bed her. I would have to be swallowed by a whale. I would be like Jonah being swallowed by a whale, except for I would have to marry my wife's sister. But I don't care. I would not marry Patty. But here I am. Here I am. Even propagating our species isn't worth this. They gathered into groups looking for little Robert. It's a big city. The chance of finding him just by screaming out his name in the neighborhood seems really far-fetched to me. And isn't calling out the name Robert called dead naming? Isn't that a sin under this new government religion we're under now? I think after those people started disappearing, maybe parents started changing their names back out of fear. I don't know. I haven't kept track of what's been going on with that issue. I was all alone looking at the tree in our driveway. I gotta cut this down tonight, I thought. It was nighttime. With the screams of "Robert! Robert!" in the distance from all directions. A native fellow left his pack of cigarettes in my garage. I needed him to bless my driveway, or the government would fine me for chopping the tree down. You can't chop a tree down with getting this permission. Anyway, their cigarettes are called mojitos. We aren't allowed to buy them though, so you have to find them, or some people buy the black market from them too, but I don't do that. I just luck out once in a while by finding a pack like right now. Our cigarettes have over 2,000 chemicals. Those are the only ones we're allowed to buy. But their cigarettes only have organic tobacco and one chemical that makes you scream out "Mojito" in random moments. It's sort of fun, so nobody complains. And so as I blew the smoke out, I heard the tree coughing. I blew more smoke at the tree and said, "Mojito. This can't be a Japanese cherry tree," I said. This was kind of an amazing moment for me because I work for the Ontario Tree Department. Maybe it doesn't sound weird if your life isn't focused on trees, but I needed a sample of the bark just to analyze it under the equipment at work. A coughing tree? Whew. This is very interesting. This cannot be a Japanese cherry tree, I thought. So anyway, I took out a little saw and cut through just lightly around the bark, and I heard a crying sound. I said, "This is definitely not a Japanese cherry tree," and peeled the bark off. But the tree screamed in bloody terror when I did that. And I mean bloody. It wasn't sap under the bark, but flesh, like an animal's body. The gore pulsated and dripped blood, so I placed the bark over it again quickly, and it stopped screaming. So I tied the string around the tree, and it stayed there. And the tree healed over time. I didn't have the heart to cut it down. The neighbors never found their son. Of course, I couldn't tell anyone. I can't explain simple things to people anymore. How can this ever be understood? More of these poor kids that tried to change from girl to boy or boy to girl or squirrel to girl went missing until we just stopped seeing them anymore. Nobody fessed up to there being more of these trees everywhere, though. I saw them everywhere. Some things are like that. They feel like I'm the only person in the world to notice. Nobody talks about this. One morning I walked out and noticed the flowers on the tree budded. They were multicolored. This is definitely no Japanese cherry tree, I said, noticing. The pink was pink with blue, with yellow, with red, all the colors of the rainbow flag. The blossoms were one thing that was just like the Japanese cherry tree, though, was that it bore no fruit. Of course, it bore no fruit. That was a dark plan all along, wasn't it?
Listen to part 2, where we delve deeper into the mystery of what these rainbow-blossomed trees really are.
You can buy my comics at the link below and subscribe and like and look at my other videos. My comics, El Shaddai 2 is probably the best one. And then El Shaddai, well, and then the Trump one, maybe then. And anyway, buy them all. But those are if you're going to buy one, El Shaddai 2 is the best one, I think. And I have better ones, but they're not. I have to wait till I have an audience, and then I could sell them. Snow White, I have it totally done. Anyway, I'll see you next.